And last week we talked about different things that you might put in your kit, and we got lots of ideas from lots of folks. And I just wanted to I'm not sure if I said this last week, but in your nature journal kit, you can have all kinds of things, and it's personal. So you don't have to have all of the things that we see, the watercolor or color pencil, or you can use whatever suits you, whatever you're comfortable with. But the most important thing, I think, is just having something to write with, a pencil, pen, and then a notebook. And preferably, I like something that's bound so that you don't lose your pages. But if all you have is a sheet of paper, go for it. And you can tape it into a book later on. And we had some different ways to package up our gear in little bags and pencil cases. Ken's got a little pouch that he's made. It's pretty cool. So you can be creative with what you want to carry with you. All right, but I think the most important thing is easy access. So if we don't have all of this gear, whether you have 5 pounds of it or 2 ounces of it, if you don't have it in an easy place where you can grab it and have access to it, it's going to be hard to nature journal. So I encourage you to, maybe put it in a bag that is easy to carry. I carry mine in a shoulder bag, the pink one down there, and I have my nature journal. I have a pouch of pencils, but really I'll only, if I'm walking around, I only use a pen and the journal, and then I add some color in there too. So you can have whatever color you like to use, whether it's color pencil can be really quick because you can grab it and then it dries really quickly. Or if you like watercolor, I found that for me personally, I've used color pencil for many, many years. And then in the last few years, I switched to watercolor because I've found I really like the ease of just splashing on a little color. So you can, this is going to be a long journey for you, and you can explore all those different materials, and we can learn from each other too, seeing each other's pages and see how, each of you use a different type of pen or a type of paper. And let's see. And some of the questions that we talked about last week were about, the topic was keeping your questions. So, the questions, the topics of, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of, if you have a question that pops up when you're nature journaling, it's important to just not type it in there, to write it in your notebook. I don't know about you, but if I don't write it in, the thought goes away pretty quickly, because like I was saying, there's lots of thoughts that are going through your mind. It could just be the chatter of your mind, or it could be a bunch of questions that are coming at you. And I find that if I just write it down, then it frees up my RAM, kind of like, random access memory in my brain, right? Because if I'm holding all those thoughts, then I can't really be present and be creative and be observant. So if I write all those questions down, even if it sounds silly, just write them down, get them out onto the paper. Because as a scientist, it's, or in science, the part of the scientific process is asking questions, right? We come to nature without being an expert about something, and we just come with the sense of curiosity and asking questions. So just like a scientist, come to your flower or to the hedge or the tree and start asking lots of questions. And to get you started, we were talking about these, I wonder what, when, where, why, and how. Those can help you if you just jot them down on the side of your page. If you forget, like, gosh, what are the questions I should ask? Because it takes practice. So I encourage you to write these and help you kind of stimulate some questions. So I wanted to stop here and see if there were any reflections from last week. If anyone had tried to nature journal and ask some more questions and see how that worked for you. Thought maybe I'd take a couple shares if anyone wants to, if you remember what you've done this week.
It's my first time here, but if you want to, I can share. I am actually processing a page that I started last week.
Yeah, please.
Let me just turn on the camera. Okay, yeah. So I've been illustrating this page on different types of vegetation cover and how the vegetation cover relates to the species that are on the ground. And you can see that sometimes there's a lot of shade from the trees, but like at the bottom here, you can see there's almost no shade from trees, and there's a lot of ground vegetation. And yeah, I've written down all the species that I've discovered, and today I read up in a book about geobotany that there is a measure you can calculate to show you the difference between two different places. It's like you calculate the number of a place of one species plus the species from another place, and then it kind of shows you a relation, how they differ in terms of species numbers, which is interesting because it's about numbers. I don't know yet what it will what it will give me, but I found it and I thought I could do that.
That's great, Isabella. Is this for work or is this your personal interest?
Well, I'm a landscaper, but I'm not working in that field of landscaping, and but it's my interest. Yeah.
Great, I love that. And I think, for everyone who's listening, it's just follow your own curiosity. So Isabella is really psyched about the landscape and the vegetation. And so when you follow that thread, like nature is calling to us to look at a certain aspect. And so when you follow that and start asking those questions, you come up with like more questions, right? And then you just kind of you delve into it, and sometimes you get really nerdy and start putting lots of data. But I think as long as you're having fun and you're excited, that's the direction to go. So can you hold up your page again, Isabella?
Yeah, sure. Can you see it clearly?
Yeah, so it looks like you've got a 3D kind of a cutout of the landscape.
Yeah, I did that too, but yeah, it's the same landscape. We were hiking in another area, but that was the view that we got.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. Thank you for sharing. And for those of you who are new to nature journaling, don't feel intimidated by anything you see that anyone shares, because each of us are on a journey, right? We start where we are, and if you are new to something, you're going to start where you are, and you're going to gather harvest information from each of the members that are here, and for inspiration. So just think about it, and if you don't understand it, or if it doesn't feel like it applies to you, that's okay for now, right? So when you're ready, you're going to get the information that you need.
I think someone mentioned it. Isabella also runs a class herself, right? Do you run a nature journaling?
Not really. I had a nature journaling party when Akshay and Gargi made the suggestion, and I want to do another one again, but not really running a class here. But in case anybody feels intimidated, that was what my first nature journaling entries looked like for I think, I don't know, several months, because I just didn't know how to put anything into a drawing. So
yep.
Yeah,
that's great. Like, yes, thank you for sharing that.
That's like the rest that you saw is like 3 years already into it. So
wow, yeah, that's really cool. 3 years, awesome, to go from just words to all that really great data collection. Thank you, Isabella. For those of you who just popped on, we are talking about just wanted to take a few reflections on if anyone asked those deeper questions about their nature journaling page, about the who, what, when, why, how. And I'll just share that for me, in the last week, I started to nature journal a poppy plant that was outside in my driveway that a friend gave to me. And it has sparked so many pages. So I'm just going to show you real quickly what had happened. I started asking questions, and it wouldn't stop. And I started to notice all kinds of things about like how the covering of the buds fell off. And then the flower petal was so big, like I pulled one off and I measured it and drew it. And then I saw the way that the buds would be pointed down, and they started to point up before they opened. And so this is an ongoing process. So as I started to ask more and more questions of that poppy, more things popped up. And so, Jack says, like, the more time that we spend, I can't remember exactly what the words were like, but basically the more time we spend with nature, it starts to reveal its mysteries to us. So hold on one sec. All right. So anyways, when we stop and, take a look at nature, I was only planning to nature journal for about 15 minutes, and I spent an hour outside. And then I went back the next day because I saw a bud that was starting to crack open, and I was so excited. I wanted to see when it was going to open. And I don't know if you know about Shirley poppies, but what I noticed is when it first opens, it was hard to kind of put that in there, but it was crinkly, like crushed velvet or crushed silk, and all the other flowers had smooth petals. So then the question dawned on me, like, why is it crushed? Is it because it's wrinkled inside the bud? And so then I just went on all kinds of questions. So I've got several pages from that Shirley poppy, and you know what, it's changing the way that I have a relationship. That's my poppy. Like, that's a poppy that lives in my garden, and it's really exciting. There's in nature awareness and nature connection that I teach with students. We talk about how we are all connected to nature, to each other by threads, right? Indigenous cultures understood this, and we can strengthen those threads each time we are giving attention and intentionally observing and connecting with that thing. So each time you go back to your jade plant or to your oak tree and watch it or just be with it or nature journal it, you're deepening that connection. So those threads of connection start to strengthen and to become strings and eventually to become ropes. And so that we become part of the web of life, of connection. So, and that just, I don't know, for me, that just really brings me a lot of joy to see like the poppy that's in my yard, or the bluebird family, that lives here in my yard, or I should say, maybe my house is in the bluebird's yard, who knows, which way it goes. All right, so asking questions is really great, and there's no end to that. You can just keep asking questions, and you don't have to answer them too. This is the other thing, is like, don't feel like you have to, oh my gosh, I have to answer these questions. Just write all those questions down, because it's going to inspire something else. Okay, so let's see, we're gonna go back to the share. All right. Okay, so colors in nature. So the inspiration for today's topic came from my new watercolor kit that from John Muir Laws right here. I am so excited about this. So I held off for a long time because I thought I didn't need it, and I use a little small, you may have seen in a little Altoids tin, it has maybe about 10 different colors, and that's what I take with me all the time because it's super portable. And this time I just was able to, get a palette, and I started playing. Actually, I didn't start playing with it, surprisingly. I thought I would dive in, but it sat on my desk for a few days. And it was really strange. I'm not sure why. Like, I opened it up and I touched it and I looked at the colors and was so excited, yet something was stopping me. And I think what it was is the 32 colors. It was for lack of better words, overwhelming. It was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like, there's so many colors. And, I feel like for the most part, a lot of my journaling has a lot of greens and blues and browns. And so I thought, what am I going to do with all these bright colors? So I thought that we could take a look at, let's see, that we could take a look at color and noticing color in nature instead of just the usual. So I wanted to start with a short story. So what are you able to see? Are you able to see the presentation, or do you see my desktop with all kinds of stuff on the side?
We see the presentation in the picture. Okay. There is a question about the palette itself.
Yes.
A couple of people have been thinking about it, and we're curious if it discourages color mixing.
Okay, I'm glad you asked that. So I'm gonna, let's see, I'm gonna stop the share for a moment. Okay. Speaker view. Okay, so this, as you can see, has lots of colors in there. And at first I thought, so the reason why I didn't buy this for a long time is that I thought, well, I don't need to carry that many colors around, because you can mix all the colors with just cyan, yellow, and magenta, right? And then maybe throw in.
Do you happen to have your old palette next to you?
Yeah. And I think that if I'm going to go out for a hike, I might still take this one. So it's in Altoids, and you know how big that is. And I put a little color chart. But basically, I have this, and that's what I use. And I don't need a whole lot of, a lot of colors. there isn't, and I think that you've just got to figure out what works for you. There isn't anything wrong with having lots of pre-mixed colors. I think the nice thing about the pre-mixed colors is if you're doing a big swath of a particular color, to have the pre-mixed colors is easier, I think. Like if I had to mix 2 of these colors to get enough paint, you know, on my little palette there to do a big square, I might have to keep mixing, and I might not have the same color, you know, with if I'm mixing multiple colors. But that said, it's not, I don't know. I think it depends on how precise you want to be with your colors and your painting. The palette that I use is, I got this plastic corrugated stuff, and I just put a sheet in here, and then I would, when I'm painting, I would have this right here. I would clip it onto my journal, either clip it or hold it. So it's pretty handy. And then I take my water brush, and then I just, you know, put it on the palette, and then I just put the paint on there. So that works really well for me. It's portable. But I'll have to say that the big nude palette, if you're thinking about it, is such a really great deal. It's really good Daniel Smith watercolors, and it has the colors that specifically selected by Jack. So it's good for nature journaling. So you might find a lot of the really great colors. And I'll have to say, at first I thought, I don't need that many pre-made greens or pre-made grays, or, you know, why do I need all these yellows? So, you know, depending on what you end up drawing or painting, you might not use them all, but the thing is, you're saving a lot of money by getting this, because then you have the variety. And if you want to be challenged and do color mixing on your own, you can still do that too. You can use the yellow, cyan, or the quinacridone pink, the yellow, and the phthalo blue, and you can challenge yourself and say, I'm only going to use those 3 colors to mix all my colors. So it's just convenience. And there's no right or wrong. You know, I think I heard Jack say recently, you know, some watercolorists say like, well, we don't use black, but, you know, Jack has black, and it's not black, but it's neutral tint and Payne's gray. I mean, those are colors that I use in my painting anyways. So I'll just show you. The one that I really like that's new to me is this bloodstone and this black tourmaline. It makes a really nice light gray, because I found that with a neutral tint, I had a hard time watering it down enough so that it's really pale if I want to just pale gray. And so those 2 colors are really cool. So if anything, you can just learn from Jack's palette, right? Practice, you know, playing around with the colors and see what works for you. And then if you wanted to then make your little kit, then you know which 6 tubes you want to buy, right, to put in your little kit. And I'm just thinking now, maybe when we're all together, we can even just pitch in and just, you know, share little tubes, right? Because I bought 1 tube of the quinacridone pink. I mean, I think it's gonna last a lifetime, right? Because I don't use a whole lot. I'm not like a major watercolor person, right? I mean, I'm just using it for Nature Journal to add some color. So I hope that answered your question, whoever had the chat there. And thank you, Brian, for putting in those links so that people can go and check it out. Let's see. Oh, the paint pots. You can use, you know, the gum that comes in the blister packs. You know what I'm talking about? They're like hard gum that's in a little plastic that's got indentations. You can use that, eat the gum, peel off the foil, and cut it to fit into a little tin. And I've made one of those for my daughter. The one that I have in here right now, this black one, is from a really cheap watercolor kit that I got at Michael's craft store for like $2 or $4. And I popped out all of the cheap colors, and then I put my own watercolors, I squoze them in there. And that's what I used. You can also use, I've seen ice cube trays, these little tiny ice cube trays. I haven't made one yet, but I thought I got a few of these so that I can maybe make some with my students when we're back in person. And then you could just cut this out and then pop it into your little tin, whatever size, and then you have little wells of paint. So if you go online, you can find all kinds of ways to make your portable watercolor kits. So hopefully that answered your question. And I'm just gonna hop back here to the slideshow. Okay, all right. So I wanted to tell a quick story. So 3 days ago, I was driving down the road near my house, and it's a a road with, I live in a place where there's a lot of agriculture. So there's this big field that is usually filled with this beautiful yellow mustard, like the photo you see here in the picture. And about a few months ago, they had gone through and mowed the entire hillside of these rolling hills of beautiful yellow mustard. And the red-winged blackbirds love to hang out on them and sing. And my daughter and I were devastated when we saw that they had mowed everything down. Well, 2 or 3 days ago, I drove by and it was growing back. So the second growth of the mustard was only about maybe 18 inches tall, not like 3 feet tall like it was before. But I was just really like happy to see that hillside. And so as I was driving, I was watching the mustard and just seeing the tracks in it. And then I saw something moving in the mustard. And what I saw was, this is a sketch that I did afterwards, was this brown thing that was moving around in the mustard. It was like on a trajectory. It was moving in one direction. And I'm like, wait a minute, what is that? And then the road ducked down the hill and I lost sight of the hillside. So I went down like a quarter mile, turned back around, came back and went down that spot again to see if I can find that animal. And for a moment, I'm like, I gotta get to my destination. I don't have time for this. And then I thought, wait a minute. When is it that I'm going to be able to see this? I got to figure this out. So I took another pass and all I saw was this brown. And to me, based on the size of the mustard, it looked like it was bigger than a bobcat. And it was the color of a mountain lion, but much smaller. And I'm like, okay, that's totally making me crazy. What the heck is that? And so I did a few passes. There's nowhere to pull over on this road. So I went back and forth a few times trying to get a glimpse of this creature that was walking around. And I managed to find a spot to pull over, and I stopped the car, grabbed my binoculars from the trunk, and pulled my binoculars up. And what I saw was a coyote stopped and looked directly at me. Now, it was probably like 100, 200 feet away. So he couldn't see me, but he saw my car. He heard my car stop and he looked over. And for a moment, like our gazes, like we looked at each other. And I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. And then it looked away and trotted off and stopped and looked back at me. And as I was looking at it, I burned into my memory. I followed. So you know how we do the blind contour drawings, right? Where we watch the thing and we're not looking at her hand. I did that in my mind. I wanted to memorize like where the ears were and what it looked like and what I saw. And I came back to the car and I sketched it on a piece of lined paper. And then when I came home, I did the sketch from memory. Now, I know it doesn't look like a coyote here. It looks more like a German Shepherd. But what I wanted to point out here is that, you know, drawing from memory can be really great. Like I could look online and look at what a coyote really looks like and then draw a perfect coyote in this image. But what'll happen is it won't be what I saw. So I just decided I'm just going to pencil draw whatever I think it was, and I'm just going to commit to it and put some color on it. And, you know, then I went home and looked at pictures of coyotes. I'm like, okay, it didn't really look like that. But, you know, what I wanted to just share with you is like, this is alive. It's in me, right? The story is alive in me. It's on the page. I'm sharing it with you. I'm able to share it with you because I've drawn it in my nature journal. So that's why I think drawing is such a powerful way to share what we see in nature with others. So just wanted to share that I probably would not have seen that coyote if I wasn't scanning the mustard greens. Now, maybe that's my background as a bird watcher, that, you know, I'm looking for things that are different in the background pattern. Like the background pattern was yellow and green, but what I saw was some movement that was brown. So you know, that's just honing your observation skills. And it's not to say that I don't think that you know how to see. We all have vision, we can see, but are we really seeing it? So I want to do just a quick exercise here. If you've got, I think that many of you have a view maybe of a window or something. So I'm going to invite you that maybe for just like for the next 3 minutes or so, walk over to your nearest window and look out the window and see how many shades of green, like different colors of green you can find, and then just count them on your fingers, you know, as you kind of go through. And then come back and then hold up your fingers and tell me how many colors you saw. And I'm going to do the same exercise over here. So I'm going to give everyone I'm going to stop the share and then give everyone a chance to go to your window. And if you don't have a window, let's see, if you don't, does anyone not have a window that you can look through? Oh, Isabella. Oh, sorry, you're muted. Hold on. Go ahead.
It's fine. I'll just look at the indoor plants.
Okay, great. Look at the indoor plant. Okay, so everyone's gonna go look out your window or look at your plants and tell me how many shades of green you see. Yeah, so I saw some 10s up there. Yeah, I mean, I think I could have probably kept counting, right? Because if you start looking at like my lawn, you know, there's like dark green blades, but then there's gray blades that are yellow, and then there's ones that are in between. So how do you count those in between shades, right? Because there's this gradation. So was anyone surprised by how many shades of green they saw out there? Were you kind of expecting to see that many? Yeah, right. So if you've ever tried to paint something green out there, you know that there's like so many different shades. So I'm going to go back to my screen here. All right. So, and you can do this exercise just to kind of help you get in tune with your nature journaling session, is just go and count how many shades of green, or pick a different color. How many shades of brown, you know, do I see in my landscape? Okay, so the last couple of months we've done some exercises that hone our you know, vision. We also have done some things that hone our hearing, right? Like the listening to different sounds, where we sit outside and doing a sound map, right? Writing down the sounds that we hear and the directions they come from. We also did looking at bird song, so listening to the sounds of birds or of nature and trying to record that onto paper. So today I thought we're going to switch senses, and we're going to go to our vision. And you know, vision has so much. It's like, you know, the ability to detect shapes, detect movement, to detect texture. But today we're going to talk about color. So here's a picture here. You can see just, you know, just in a normal, you know, setting, you might see the color of the grasses. You know, the grass, the seed heads there are like a light green, and then the blades are darker, and in the shade, the green is darker. The olive tree has, you know, kind of a grayish green, two-tone color. So, you know, once we start looking, we'll notice that there's lots and lots of different shades of green. Another exercise that you can do when you're outside is just go up to a tree, you know, go up to any tree that's around. So here's 3 different kinds of trees, and count how many shades of colors there are in that tree. You know, I think this is a giant sequoia on the left-hand side. I mean, it's a reddish tree, but if you look carefully, there's some different textures and colors. You know, where the bark is peeled off, it's a little bit lighter, and then it's a darker reddish brown in the cracks where it's shady. And same with these other trees. Like this is probably a tree with some lichen on it. You know, the lichen, if you look closely at it, you'll see that there's different colors in the bark and on the things that are growing on it. And then right here on the right, I don't know if this is maybe a type of tea tree or acacia or eucalyptus, but it's like, it looks really cool, like peeling, like fabric, like draped fabric. So you can see there's lots of different shades of brown in there. You know, it's not just one color. So, you know, as you start to look at the varying various colors in nature, you might notice some things that you didn't see before. Okay. Oh, another thing, color from nature, is you can add natural items for color. So this is a couple pictures from when I was working with students. We collected some sourgrass. I don't have a picture of sourgrass, but it's the oxalis flowers with the bright, it's like neon yellow. It grows wild like weeds around here in California, on the roadsides in early spring, and some of it's still around. Well, if you grab those flowers, you can make a really nice natural dye. So I do natural dyeing. So this is one of the flowers that we use when I work with kids. And you can take the flower and actually rub it on your paper. So like this child rubbed the sample of the sourgrass, he drew a picture of it. And then this child up on top, can't remember who it was, took sourgrass and rubbed it on the flower, the picture, to give it yellow flowers. And I didn't get a chance to put in some pictures, but you can use other flowers, like a geranium flower. Experiment, you know, when you're out there drawing something, maybe take a petal and see if you can rub it onto your nature journal and get a little bit of nature onto that page. Berries are really good for this, you know, blackberries, blueberries. There's a plant called a coffee berry, is a native plant, California plant. You can make an ink out of it. You can take the berries and crush it, and you can paint with it. You can use grass, right? We all know about that, right? As a kid, when we'd run on the grass and get grass stains on our knees, you can just go out and take some grass or some leaves from plants and experiment and see which ones give us color that you know, that will stay on our nature journal. Dirt is another great one. I think Roseanne Hansen makes her own inks out of rocks and dirt that she collects. So, you know, you can go out there wherever you are and just grab some of the dirt and get it wet, rub it in your page, and, you know, then you have a record of what the dirt looked like in that spot. And who knows, it might be a different color from, you know, another location you go to. So, and, you know, as you know, though, I've learned that these watercolor paints, you know, they're ground up, sometimes they're ground up stones that are made into paints. And so, you know, knowing that about how our paints that we purchase are made, you know, maybe we can go out and make our own nature paint, and put that in our nature journal for something kind of fun. All right, so one exercise that I thought that might be kind of fun for us to do is a color walk. So this is where, if you were here in person with me, I would pass out these are color chips. So you can get these at the hardware store, right? When you're trying to decide what color to paint your house, you know, you get these samples and you can match and see which one you want to use. Well, I grabbed a few of these for the students that I teach, and I usually pass these out when we're outside, and they all complain about the color that they get, and they say, well, I can't find this color in nature. But the cool thing is everybody comes back with something that they found in nature that matches at least one of the shades on their card. So, you know, maybe if you've got some lying around, or next time you're able to get to the hardware store, just grab a few and just, you know, it's just a fun way to, this is to stimulate your curiosity, your excitement, but also to practice honing your observational skills. So, because you're not here, I was trying to figure out how to make this work. You know, I thought, well, I can, like, you know, take a photo and you can print it. And I thought, I don't want everyone to have to print color page. So I thought that the next best thing is everyone grab, right? You've all got some colored pencils or crayons or markers, right? And if you don't, then just pick 2 colors at random. So close your eyes, put your hand in the bag or whatever you're using, and I will do the same too. Let me see. Okay, so everyone just at random grab 2 colors. All right, let's see what you got. Oh, looks like I've got kind of a gray violet and a grass green. All right, everyone have 2 colors? All right, okay, I'm looking now. Oh yeah, Isabella popped out one of her paints. That's a good idea too. All right, you got some markers or pencil, awesome. Thought we'd do a color walk. So if you're able to get outside, go walk out in nature. If you're not able to go outside, you can stay in your house, go to the fridge or the kitchen or to your house plant, right, if you've got one, or an orchid, whatever. Maybe you have a cat or a dog, some animals, goldfish, whatever's around. Be creative. And if you don't have that kind of nature around, you can you know, grab some pictures or, you know, something on the screen. So one of the things I like to do for warm-ups is, you know, sometimes when we go outside, we need to acclimate. I think that's what it is. We need to get on nature's pace, right? We're in our human pace of like rushing and doing and all kinds of things. So just when I step outside, I just have to like take a breath, right? And find a spot. You might have your sit spot already. We've talked about that. A spot in your garden or in your nature where you can go and just sit and observe and be. So if you have a spot like that, just sit and, just take a few deep breaths, whatever feels comfortable for you. You can close your eyes to just kind of help reset, right? It's kind of like rebooting, right? From human world to sliding into nature, right? We want to be part of nature. And then when you feel a little settled, like you can feel like your heart rate kind of relaxing, then walk around or scan your surroundings and see what draws your attention. You'll be looking at all the things with your eyes, and something's going to catch your attention. Something's going to say, come draw me. It's going to beckon you to come over to it. So when you hear that, go over to whatever it was, and then, look at it a little more closely. And also have the colors in mind. So you have your color pencils. You could look around and say, can I find these colors in nature? And see if you can match, those colors as close as possible. And if you can't, that's okay. If you don't want to, that's okay too. This is just, a fun exercise that'll help kind of, hone your abilities to kind of discern the colors and spot the colors in nature. And then when you find your thing that you want to nature journal, just a reminder, these are really great sentence starters here. I notice, right? That's your observations. I wonder, right? The questions that you have, it reminds me of, and this makes those connections, right? In your brain. So, think about putting those in there. You don't have to do all of this. I'm just throwing these out here for options for you to do when you're out in nature. And as we know, putting words and numbers on our picture makes it less of a piece of artwork. So if you are one who is a little apprehensive about drawing, throw lots of words and numbers on there. Right, count how many petals, how many insects are there, how many leaves are on that branch, like how long is the flower, if you have a little ruler, measure it, put a lot of, because we're collecting, you can imagine yourself as a scientist and you're collecting data, right? So you're just going to measure and count everything, and then you're going to sketch some pictures of it so that you can, focus your attention. So the drawing is not necessarily a pretty picture. It can be a pretty picture, but the drawing part of it is the process of helping you observe it more carefully. So, and then if you still feel stuck, take some breaths and maybe practice, doing these quick sketches. The cool thing about these quick sketches is there's nothing to compare it to. So I can't tell if I've done a good drawing, right? Because the purpose of it was just to warm up and get the pictures on the page. So maybe you can do that in nature too. Just go and just sketch something for 30 seconds and move on to another one for 30 seconds and see if that helps you warm up and loosen up. And we'll be back here at 11:30. It is 10:30 right now. Before we log off, I wanted to let you know that I still have some spots in the Intro to Nature Journaling class that starts on Wednesday. We meet there's 2 sessions that you can choose, either the 9 o'clock class or the 4 o'clock class. And the 4 o'clock class is almost full, but I still have a couple spots. So if you're interested, you can send me an email. It's 6 weeks on Wednesdays, and you'll get a bonus one-on-one personalized call for guidance, or if you have any questions. So you can email if you want me to save your spot. It starts Wednesday. It's on Zoom. And here's my email, sparkinnature@gmail.com. If you have any questions in between here and now, or if you want to find out about the class, or you just want to share some cool nature story that you've had this week, feel free to send me an email. I love to hear those. And join the Monterey Bay Nature Journal Club if you're not in there. That's where we can share our pictures, and we can support each other and encourage each other. So if one of our members is posting a picture up there, it takes courage, right? So let's go on there and give them some really positive feedback in what we see in their drawing, because we are our own worst critics. And if we have someone else that's not in our head reflect something that's really nice or observant or appealing in that nature journal page, it helps us feel a little bit more comfortable. So that's a Facebook page that you can join. And if you like what you're seeing of the free sessions on Sundays and you'd like to support me, please, I invite you to go to PayPal or Venmo. I appreciate your donations. It really helps support my family and my life, so I can continue to share what I love and do this nature journaling so that I don't have to worry about all the other stuff that's going on. So with that, we'll just say, let's all go take a hike, color walk in nature. If you don't feel like doing any of that, if you just want to sit in nature and draw whatever you want, that's totally fine too.